transition period. That's maybe the way how in 100 years from now the manuals of history will describe our lifetime. It's not an easy time to live in, right? Not easy. And you know, it's not only that we are in between the centuries, what sometimes happens to people, you know, but we are also between the second and third millennium. Wow, it's even worse for us. Very interesting times. Polarization. We feel in democracies that something is wrong somewhere. I just wonder if you felt the same 30 years ago. I remember it was more or less the same time, 30 plus, when the Soviet bloc collapsed. I was a teenager there. And my country, Poland, got back democracy. And I thought we all shared these emotions that this was it. I mean, we were so happy and the history was just in front of us. And this was an experience of a lifetime, you know. Soviet Union collapsed precisely 30 years ago, 1991. And I thought, many people thought, oh, that is it, that's history, nothing else happens, we know how to live, everything is in order, democracy won, Cold War ended. We have our system, we love the system, we know. Everything was so simple. And we were so wrong. 30 years after, today, what are your feelings? Yeah. We feel that something is going wrong somewhere in our own place, in our country, in our Europe, in our mind. Polarization. We are very polarized, deeply divided. But you know what? It's not necessarily a bad thing for democracies, because polarization means divisions, and divisions means that we have a lot of points of view, a lot of opinions, a lot of people who also want to act and be active. In short run, it makes us weaker. You know, like the virus. The virus in the short run makes us weak. But in the long run, maybe it will bring us resilience. It will bring us somewhere. The future is unknown, but it gives us many more options. You know why? Because we have choices. Authoritarian regimes don't have choices. People don't have choices in these kind of systems. And if this is true, that in this transition period we are entering another bad time, you know, after 30 years we are back to the square one, we feel. We are back to the square one. Democracies and authoritarian regimes fight. Who knows how this will end? We are in democracies. Do we want to keep it? Do we think it's a value? Or we hear these voices already in Poland, in Europe, in the United States. Oh, maybe that's not really a good system. Democracy is sick. Are we sick? We have pandemic. We are all sick, you know that. But it's a double meaning. Are we double sick? We have a virus inside our system. It's a virus in our system. What can we do to get rid of it? Can we? Let's look at our emotions. Well, I can compare also my emotions 30 years ago, and I remember that I felt security, I felt order, and we felt also solidarity. Didn't we? Especially in this country, Poland, solidarity has this special meaning because we had solidarity movement, which helped us to get democracy back. Now, where is this? Where is our solidarity? Forget Poland. Where is the solidarity in Europe? Where is the solidarity of the West? What is really the West? We are really lost. That's the feeling about politics. But how do we feel about our own private life? We are very confused, don't we? Aren't we? Why? Well, we got this internet. That's great. We got the social media. It's even better. Fascinating. 2 1,700,000,000 people have accounts on Facebook. Well, many of them fake. 2 billion people use WhatsApp. Are you among them? 2 billion. 1 billion people uses Instagram. 1 billion. 350 million people use Twitter, especially politicians. They love this, to tweet. We are lost, you know. We thought when we get more information, we will get more knowledge. Now what we feel, we are completely confused. More we get, less we understand. Some authoritarian regimes who are not wishing us well help us to be confused. They disinform us. And then we don't even know that we, copy-paste and we misinform the other people. And that's only the beginning, because information war is there. We are in the middle of it, and Europe is a battlefield for this because we are having polarized society. We are able to express whatever we want. We are democracies, so everyone can paste whatever he or she wants in the internet. So we are at the beginning of the era of information wars based not only on fake news. Deep fake is coming, meaning that we will not be able to recognize at all if this is real or if this is fake. We'll hear the politicians in interviews they've never given. We will see the photos of the places or people who don't exist. Are we prepared for this reality in democracies? Because, authoritarian regimes solve these problems easily. They cut off the internet, or they block the sites, whatever. They don't have a problem with polarization. They don't have a problem with differences of opinion. We do. So let's look at some numbers, how deeply we are polarized. Poland, we always say, oh, deeply polarized country, very, very deeply divided. We remember last year we had presidential elections, and you remember the results, right? More or less 10.5 million Poles voted for one candidate, and then the 10 million Poles voted for the other one. Half, almost. 51% to 49%. Well, but many people voted, around 67%. Not bad. But still many people didn't vote at all. But forget Poland. Look at the United States, much more important country for the world. The presidential elections last year, you remember how the Americans voted? Joe Biden, how many Americans supported Joe Biden? 81 million. 81 million, which was the best ever result in the history of presidential elections in the United States. Wow. But how many people voted Donald Trump? 74 million. Wow, quite a high number, which was the best ever result in the presidential elections in the United States after Joe Biden. America is deeply divided. It's not easy to, solve this. But many Americans voted, much more than recently. The best ever result in 100 years. Around 68% of those who were eligible to vote. So it's good. But still many Americans didn't vote. That's bad. Democracy, it's everything in our hands. We have choice. Still. So look at the numbers, how divided is the world. We have around 195 countries. Well, some countries, some places in the world are not, the status is not clarified, but let's see, around 200 countries. And we have an index, democracy index, which monitors most of these countries. And we found, it's from this year, that we have only 23 countries on the globe who are full democracies, which gives us the number of 8.5% of people who live in democracies, full democracies. Europe is on the lead. European countries, especially Nordic countries, are the best. Scandinavia, Norway, but also some countries who are Western but are not in Europe. For example, Not the United States. New Zealand. New Zealand. And countries like Taiwan. But we also have authoritarian regimes. We have 57 full authoritarian regimes. But we also have countries who are in the middle. Well, who are democracies. We call them democracies, but something is wrong in the system. It's not full, proper democracy. By the way, the United States are in this group. So, altogether, we can say that if we count both full democracies and democracies with some problems, then we can say that the world is divided half-half. A little bit less than half of the world population lives in democracies, or half democracies, and the other half in authoritarian regimes. So the question is, where do we want to be? It's the high time to do something about it. We know, of course, at the political scene we have Joe Biden, who mentioned that openly, that it's a new war now between democracies and authoritarian regimes. And he would like to convince all the democratic countries to join this coalition, to prove that democracies can work in difficult times. Because, of course, you know, authoritarian regimes tell us the other truth. What do they tell us? Democracy is good for nothing. Pandemic? Are you kidding me? You don't handle it well. You are not able even, you know, to organize your vaccination process properly. Democracy doesn't work. It doesn't work especially in difficult times. Should think more about pandemic. Pandemic gives us a lesson. What lesson can we take? Well, for the pandemic, if we follow the experts, the doctors, they say, if you get vaccinated, and if you get vaccination, by the way, vaccination is not mandatory still. It's your option, right? You can do it. Well, it would be good if you do it. Please do it. What can I do to convince you to do it? But it's not mandatory. Doctors say that if more than 70% of the population gets vaccines, we are safe because we get resilience to the virus. Why can't we follow this example, this lesson to the democracy and say, okay, let's get vaccine. If 70% of those people who live in democracies gets it, maybe we are safe, maybe we get resilience to fight against authoritarian regimes. The virus is inside. It's not only outside, right? The virus is in the middle of our own system. That would be a good idea. The big question mark is only what could be this vaccine? How to vaccinate the population? I would stress the education factor. Smart education. Like, you know, we political scientists discussed that we, in the era of a new Cold War, maybe Cold War 2.0, which is now discussed, you know, that we are in this moment, authoritarian regimes and democracies will again go back to fight, or it's happening. So in this Cold War 2.0, maybe we should have democracy at a different level, upper level. And political scientists discuss already democracy 2.0. Democracy 2.0 would be using IT and new technologies for democratic processes. We even went further. We discussed democracy 3.0, which would be use these tools to create new forms of democracy, new forms of some ways we implement democracy. Because actually, you know, it's very strange that we stay closed in the system and in the institutions created in 17th and 18th century. Hello? We are in 21st century. But maybe only on paper, you know? In our politics, in our way we implement democracy, we are still not in 21st century at all. So why can't we propose democracy 4.0, which will be to use all this, but to be much more active and to be much more aware, to self-educate Let's not wait for the state to give us everything. Let's just work on ourselves. We call it media literacy. Media literacy is a new term used to be aware in the internet, in social media, what we do and how we behave, right? Just to avoid, try to not to fall in traps given by disinformation. Try not to misinform the others. It's difficult because we have a problem in distinguishing what is true, what is false. Some people say that the truth is no more interesting. Who knows what is truth? Do we need really to know the truth? Well, I don't know if we need to know the truth all the time, but at least we should not follow the bad examples. And we shouldn't follow also those politicians who made polarization deeper, who give us easy answers to difficult questions. If the problem is difficult, the solution will never be simple. It's a complex solution. So those who give us easy answers, let's be aware. Let's have this red light. You know, in Italy, when you see red light, they say, okay, it's just a suggestion. Well, let's treat it seriously. And let's try to get vaccine. And let's try to do it ourselves without waiting for anybody and any government to help us. Smart education, a very, being careful in the internet and social media. And then if you don't know what to do, if you just don't know what to do, use your common sense. Common sense. If somebody will tell you that this will fly, just use your common sense. No, it doesn't. So, coming back, we are living in a transition period. To what, we don't know. Like in every transition, it's not an easy time to live in. Who knows what will happen? But one thing is certain. We live in democracies and we still have a choice. The choice is in our hands. In authoritarian regimes, there's no choice. So let's choose well. And at least until the moment we still have a choice.